NAATBatt was founded in 2007. I want to open up the discussion about what were the early days like, the challenges, the vision, and the industry's evolution compared to today. Jim, I want to ask you first, what were the biggest challenges you faced when starting NAATBatt, and how do they compare today? And then I want that to sort of uh, morph into a discussion about how you all got into this space and how the external factors that have sort of influenced the industry over that time affected the work that you do.
Sure. Basically, the biggest challenge at the time we started NAATBatt was the immaturity of the technology. Back in 2010, and we started in about 2007, 2008. In 2010, the cost per kilowatt hour of a lithium ion battery pack was about $1,200 per kilowatt hour. Compared to today, we're at about 139 and below. So back in the day, it was really difficult to be able to conceive of a truly economic vehicle. We were just coming off the EV1, which was, of course, a product of lead acid batteries. It was an interesting novelty, but it really wasn't made well for the mass market. And it was very difficult to see how companies that had to spend that much money to power the vehicle were really going to be accepted into the marketplace. Different manufacturers, of course, had different strategies. GM and Nissan sort of being the first two major vehicle manufacturers to try to introduce a mass market vehicle, sort of glommed on to the NMC revolution, the new revolutionary, more energy dense batteries that were developed at Argonne National Laboratory back in the 2000s, and tried to make those into what essentially became a people's vehicle, the Nissan Leaf, or the the GM Volt, to keep the cost down and hope for government support. Tesla, interestingly, took a different approach. They basically were making a luxury product, something that didn't seem that it was going to get any government support, but they could get early adopters to invest and purchase their products. And that turned out to be quite successful. I've always believed that Elon Musk didn't really ever make an electric car. He made a consumer brand. And that's really what people, ultimately what drove the success of Tesla, and took a lot of the rest of us, including myself, a long time to really figure that out.
I'll say a couple of early words. So I got to know Jim a few years back. I went to my first NAATBatt conference, and I knew from that conference onward, and in full credit to Jim and the organization he created, it really brought together so many key players, and I immediately saw the traction, the momentum, the sort of national impetus that was at the genesis of the NAATBatt organization. Recyclers, producers, government, academia, everybody was there, and there was a real good buzz going, and rightfully so, of course. So and it also heartens me to hear that it was Barack Obama who asked you, Jim, to get this ball going, which means there were some brains behind this sort of national strategy. Now, has it gotten derailed? Does it lack the full support needed to succeed globally? Well, I think that's why we're having this podcast. We're gonna talk about that. But I think we had some really good early starts, and like you said, the cost of batteries has just been plummeting over the years, and just so much has been happening in just relatively record time. In just, I'd say, 5 years, the world's completely changed, from technology, from just market growth. I mean, every year there's something new that's coming out, and then within a short period of time it's commercialized. Sodium-ion batteries is a great example. Like that was went from a terrible idea to maybe it's going to work, to all of a sudden it's a commercial product. So anyway, I think we're off to a great start, at least on average around the world. Whether North America is doing great, I don't know. We're gonna hear more about that today, I think.
So my journey with alternative energy systems actually started in the 1990s, and as an undergraduate at UBC in Vancouver. I was on a team that made a solar car, and there was something called the Sun Race in those days. So that was sort of the middle 90s. And I had such a great time making an aerodynamic monocoque shell. We had a big wind tunnel at UBC, and we would use that with little bits of string and take photographs. And this was just this fantastic project that I really loved. And then I worked at a company in Vancouver, in Burnaby, called Ballard Power, which made hydrogen fuel cells. And so they were one of the pioneers of the hydrogen fuel cells. And as a young engineer or engineering student at that time, I remember seeing the CEO of Ford Motor Company touring the floor at Ballard Power, and Ford subsequently invested about $1 billion, which was lots of money in the 90s. And I remember leaving that summer job thinking to myself, any day now, it's just around the corner. We're all going to be driving hydrogen vehicles. And how wrong I was. And then a few years after that, I was in Los Angeles for Christmas, and they had sort of a street fair in Beverly Hills, and I saw this yellow race car from a company called AC Propulsion, or AC Motors. And I was just transfixed by this thing. I was so fascinated with this idea that you could make this sort of small, it looked really fast. It was just this really exciting potential there to have a battery powered car, which, the EV1 was ahead of its time, but it was not super exciting. But this thing looked really cool. And then I sort of moved away from that and did other things and created my first company. And then I came to it from the consumer side. I test drove a Tesla one day, a Model S, and almost crashed it. They have a Tesla center by the airport at SFO, still there. And it was so astonishing. I mean, it was so unbelievably good. That was sort of a turning point. This was the moment when this was going to change the world. So after that, I went and worked for Toyota on some battery recycling concepts at Toyota Research, and then I created Carbon Critical to advance some of that and bring it into the marketplace.